Watch him throw the ball, we gon' pick it off. You gon' let him hit the hole or you gon' cut it off. You gon' play through fourth and long or you gon' punt it off. Your defenders, heavy hitters, put your pads in. Don't be looking for the ref to throw no flags in. Keep the helmet on, keep the cleats tight. You the type to want to win by any means, right? You should look alive. This is Trap or Dive.
Yes, sir. Welcome back to another episode of the Washington Commanders morning show right here on Trap or Dive YouTube channel. I'm the host of the Trap or Dive podcast, Mual. Good morning to everybody that's checking in live. Good morning to everybody that's checking in a little bit later. The morning trappers, what's up? Make sure y'all, before we get started, man, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. We definitely always appreciate that. We are, you see y'all, Hawk in here, man. Hawk in the building. Yeah, today was a different day. Like I say, it's usually Wednesdays and Fridays for my new schedule since we've revived the morning show. But this week in particular, work-related things is, I couldn't do Wednesday or Friday, so gotta fit it in when you can, man. Pause. It's a holiday, so I figured I'd go to the gym this morning. You know what I'm saying? Pump a little weight, get some squats in, get some chest work, do some hamstrings, quads, all that stuff, and you know what I'm saying? Get some core work done. And then do the show. This is an interesting time for Washington, and that's like putting it lightly. What up, Benila? That's putting it lightly. This is the playoff weekend. We're two full days. Well, Friday. I'm lying. 3 full days away from Washington taking on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And what's probably going to be a for Washington's side, a full strength matchup against the home team, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And I think going into this game, there's a lot to be optimistic about if you're a Washington fan. I think Washington is, that's at this point they're the darling, right? They're the darling of the playoffs. Going into it, I'm sure a lot of people have. If you're talking about, the Vikings. I've never really trusted the Vikings, and maybe from a national standpoint, people view things a little bit differently. But I had a hard time trusting the Vikings this entire season, and they had to come back from a lot of deficits to beat teams, and that's where my mind is at when I think about the Minnesota Vikings. But where I'm getting at is like the wild card teams that people are always saying this is the team that can really make stuff shake. in the postseason, like the dangerous team, I don't know if that's Minnesota. And again, like I said, I might be a little biased because I don't trust Minnesota fully. And it has a lot to do with Sam Darnold. They got weapons. Can't deny that. But it has a lot to do with Sam Darnold. Green Bay, they are a dangerous team too. But are they as explosive as Washington offensively in terms of capability? Genuinely asking. Like, are they explosive? Like, if you had to rank the NFC teams, right? Because, like, side note, in the AFC, and I'm going to get back to the NFC, you got Pittsburgh, the Chargers, and Denver as your wild card teams. Who do you trust out of those wild card teams, like, in terms of, like, that's most dangerous? Me, personally, I like Sean Payton, and I like what they're doing in Denver. But I think it's them buddies in LA, the Chargers, who ain't got a semblance of a running game. But, you know, with Harbaugh, I think Herbert needed that sense of stability and level-headedness. Like somebody who's been here before, who knows how to win, who can teach you how to win, who can keep you calm in pressure moments, right? Who understands, like, we had this history of total collapses, but it's not going to happen under us. I think the Chargers are that dangerous team in the AFC. Back to the NFC, back to Washington. They're the team with 12 wins in the wild card. And I think what is interesting for them is understanding where Marshawn is. You know, he's coming back. I don't think like it's full participant in practice. They said they're gonna ramp it up again today. They haven't practiced yet. On the Trap or Die podcast later this evening, you know, we'll get the pressers from the coordinators. We'll also get an further understanding of where Marshawn is after practice. So we'll chop it up again this evening, 7 p.m. Eastern. We'll also have a Tampa Bay preview with John Ledyard. He'll come through and preview the Tampa Bay side. But I think with Marshawn coming back, and this is why I said I prefer Tampa Bay over the Rams. Like, what bothers me going into this game for Washington, they don't have the strongest pass rush. That would have benefited them if they did play the Rams, because their offensive line is mediocre. But if you saw the tape against the Dallas Cowboys, I'm gonna tap into a couple plays. I did a film study, but I wasn't really focused on the secondary as much as I was focused on the defensive line. So I watched all 84 plays. Just focused on the defensive line. They struggled, man. They struggled to win consistently throughout that game. And I think that's one of the bigger reasons if you hear Joe Witt in his pressers. He said it several times. I am one of the highest pressure rated coordinators in the team. I mean, in the NFL. Like, he sends one of the higher pressure rates in the NFL. He does that for a reason, bro. And there was a lot of 4-man rushes against Dallas. There were some 5-man rushes too, like where you running that cover one on the back end. But there was moments where, like, some of your bigger pass rushers was getting one-on-ones. They weren't really getting home. 2 sacks on Trey Lance, right? Let me see if I actually recorded both of them. Let's see. I didn't. Dakota, what are you doing, bro? Okay. So I didn't record the sacks themselves. Okay. So 2 pass rushes. I mean, two sacks against the Dallas Cowboys. One was, I think, a weak side blitz from Jeremy Chin. A strong side blitz from Jeremy Chin. The tight end had Chin, and he was in a block and release situation, but he basically just tapped Jeremy Chin and allowed Chin a free pass to the quarterback, smack the dogs out of Trey Lance, right? Another one was a coverage sack. John Allen cleans up after Dante Fowler, who misses on the edge. And Trey Lance basically runs into John Allen's arms, and you get a sack right there. The thing against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, when I talk about this pass rush, is I think while Marshawn Lattimore coming back is one of my favorite reasons for this matchup, like his familiarity with him, with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, his ability, like it's documented, his ability to frustrate Mike Evans is a huge mental advantage for Washington. Right? That's not going to contribute to a win or loss, but if you can get him in terms of limiting, I butchered that word. I know I did. If you can limit his effectiveness and impact on the game, that in itself is the win. It puts the pressure on the rest of your teammates to come through. But his ability to be active and on the field against Mike Evans, and I don't think he'll have all of his matchups on Mike Evans, but majority of them will be. You need everybody else up front and in that box to come through. If you can't rush the passer with your 4 or even your 5 and get home, you're going to be in trouble because Baker will kill you. You got pressure, tons of it, in that first game against Baker. And I think you got him down once or twice. I'm about to double check right now. Let's see how many times you sacked Baker. You sacked him once. And you got home you got to him like 7-8 times. He ends up getting 3 rushes for 21 yards. All those are probably scrambles. I mean, they were scrambles. But they got the scrambles probably because y'all missed the tackle in the backfield. Let me pause for a second before I continue on the defensive line. Checking with the chat. Vanilla Rams Commanders money line 2-leg. The underdog play. It's actually not too bad. That's actually not too bad. Go ahead, start that one. I'm gonna keep that in my back pocket, bro. Commanders and the Rams are dangerous. What's up, S31166311628T? What up, player? I'm not saying that again. I'm gonna say 311. I'm gonna call you 311, bro. Green Bay has Josh Jacobs and the receiving core is better than Washington. I agree. Where are they at statistically? I know Jordan Love missed some time, so that'll probably skew it a little bit. Okay. Yeah, they solid. That's why I say like I think it's them two. If anything, it's Green Bay and Washington. And I think Washington probably more explosive, but funny enough, I think Green Bay is more explosive in the run game. So I guess it evens out. I think that Green Bay and Washington are two very dangerous wild card teams. I'll give it 1A and 1B. I'll let you decide which one is A and which one's B. But Neela likes the Steelers in the AFC. Chargers can give Kansas City trouble. Is that who they play? If they make it out of Houston, the Chargers, they play Kansas City. Xavier out, that means they're about to eat. This week is taking forever. What up, Al 2? Out to the morning trappers, man. Hey, I told y'all. Let me see if I did a film session on week 1. I want to say I did a film session on both the offense and the defense. I know I did the offense because I think it was Jaden Daniels. I was focusing in on his first game. He missed a lot of opportunities in that game, just from the standpoint of like taking off and not necessarily, yeah. Oh yeah, I did offense and defense. The biggest thing in the defensive side, and why I love like this matchup again too. If y'all remember, the bigger problem for Washington, for Washington in that first game, defensively was how they communicated in the secondary. They couldn't cover a trips. They couldn't cover a bunches. That's how I think McMillan got free on a couple plays downfield. And then that boy Godwin, he was just eating in the slot. Like nobody could check him. That's where Sanders still was. As a rookie, Godwin he's gonna put in work. So Sanders still got baptized. But I think that game in itself, specifically from a coverage standpoint and communication standpoint, Washington is by far is drastically better than what they were in week 1. And then you add on Marshawn Lattimore, and he's caught up from a mental standpoint. And then you just got to be able to correct the things that you did from a rush standpoint, getting home and get hands on Baker. Funny enough, they had issues with Trey Lance. And that's a little frustrating. Commanders got nothing to lose. We had a schedule. That's a fact. Yeah, Allen had one. That's the one I spoke on. The second one, Allen had one, and then Jeremy Chin had the first one. Look at Irvin and the time Baker has in the pocket. Bucks offensive line is elite. They got that left tackle. They got that boy. Got to shut down Bucky. I was about to say Bucky. I'm about to say Irvin. Bourbon. But here's one thing that I'm interested in. I got to find, where is Tampa Bay at? Bucky Irvin took over as a starter. Oh, wow. He only started 3 games. Damn. I thought he started more than that. Started 3 games, has 1,100 yards and 8 touchdowns. That's a strong. He had 9 carries for 62 against us. Boy, he had a hell of a season, bro. How many snaps a game is he playing? For some reason, I thought he started more, but I was wrong. Bucky got 62 yards on 9 carries on 30% of the snaps against the Saints, bro. He played 30% of the snaps against Denver, had 9 carries, 70 yards. This is actually a little crazy. Yeah. Bucky, your dog, three 100-yard games, 2 of them against Carolina. So that kind of tell you that. But then 1 against the Chargers. They went 15 for 117. He finished the season strong, man. Those 300-yard games came in December. That's tough. And he started Carolina, started New Orleans. He started both New Orleans games. But yeah, Bucky, man, has been a surprise, like a pleasant surprise for Tampa. I think one of the bigger things that they had going into the season, we did the Tampa Bay preview going into week 1, and they needed to establish a run game. And they didn't have the offensive line to do it. And then they just didn't have the run presence or the back presence to do it. And Bucky Irvin clearly has taken that. Now, again, he only has 3 starts, but the amount of carries and his effectiveness in terms of his snap percentage to production is pretty impressive. So Bucky is probably going to be one of those ones where you gotta take him out the game early. And when I mean take him out the game, get a goddamn lead. An expansive lead. Now it's harder because you're talking about Baker Mayfield in a Tampa Bay offense who is the number 3 passing offense in the NFL. That's going to be rough. We mirror the Bucs, same good offense, terrible defense. Is going to be a shootout. But we both got strengths. That's why I don't think the Bucs defense is terrible. We're actually in the same boat in terms of mid-tier defenses. You're not going to run on Tampa Bay. And it's hard for Washington. I mean, it's hard when you're at full strength. It's hard for Washington. It's hard for you to throw on Washington. That's what I was trying to say. I mean, in a sense, we mirror them. If you get what I'm saying. But we don't have neither team have terrible defenses. Now, granted, the difference in Tampa Bay, they have been killed by injuries defensively. That's why they secondary getting whooped. But you ain't running on them. And that's a frustrating thing to know going into this playoff, because one of my biggest things going into the Dallas week is you got to find a way to get some confidence back in the run game. Dakota, don't do it. Dakota, don't do it. Don't do it, bro. Don't do it. You about to hear it in a little bit. But we got good offenses and solid defenses. Both teams do. And I think when you have a strength like Washington's on offense, I don't know. See that, and that's another thing. Like, what's one of the better ways? Because I think it's going to be a lot of points scored, but I also wouldn't be surprised if one of these teams have the approach of dominating time of possession and like making that a center point. And when you dominate time of possession, it lessens the opportunities for both of you, like both Washington and Tampa Bay, to put points on the board. So I wouldn't be surprised if it's not like a 37, 31, 38, 30 game. Might be 27, 21. 27, 24. I got a lot of respect for the Bucs defense. It has a lot to do with Todd Bowles. It has a lot to do with Vita Vea and Lavonte David. Those are my guys. Did I say? Oh, wait. And that boy, Yaya Diaby. Even though he only got 4.5 sacks this season. I like him. Great pocket awareness, as Al too say. I agree. I agree. Feeling a big B-Rob game coming. Hey, Dawson, if anybody on this chat know, they know I am all for a big B-Rob game on the way. Good morning, Dawson. Good morning to everybody checking in, all the morning trappers, man. Now, granted, I'm giving y'all, we here with the morning trapping, but the real morning trappers tap in at 6 a.m. You see what I'm saying? I'm here for a big B-Rob game, bro. Especially if Washington wins. Because AJ ain't going to hear the end of it. Everybody on Twitter ain't going to hear the end of it. I might do a whole film session just on B-Rob going into the divisional round. Jaden who? For us to make a run, my one major area that needs to improve is forcing turnovers, taking the ball away. This team can be a problem. Washington has, that's a really good point out too. Washington has 17 turnovers forced this season. And while I don't think you're wrong, I wanna point this to y'all attention. And this is gonna be one of my keys. I'll say this again this evening. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The last 8 games. I'm just making sure I get my math right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The last 8 games, Washington had a turnover in 7 of them. They have had in 7, of those 8 games, or of those 7 in which they had turnovers in these last 8, New Orleans, they didn't have a turnover in that game. But of those 7 games where they had turnovers, they had 13. They've had 13 turnovers in their last 8 games. 7 of 8. That is alarming, especially for a team who only had 3 in the previous 9. And those 3 came in back-to-back weeks against the Arizona Cardinals and Cleveland Browns. That is one way to win. You got to knock these turnovers off. You was already lucky enough to win against Philadelphia with 5. I think we need to focus on these turnovers offensively and make sure that they get on track on that side of the ball, protect the football, reinforce what made them good early on, which was keeping the football in the offensive hands. But again, good point out too. We do have to force some turnovers. I do think against Tampa Bay Buccaneers, a team who is prone to turning the football over, you got to find a way to get them to turn the football over too. They are 23rd in the NFL. 21st in the NFL in turnovers offensively. They turn the ball over 23 times. They've actually had a turnover in, they turn the ball over in clusters. They've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games out of their 17 with no turnovers. But they've had 1, 2, 3, 8 games this season where they've had 2+ turnovers in a game. So that ought to tell you the opportunities that exist with Baker Mayfield in this Tampa Bay offense. He has 16. He has 16 of their 23 turnovers. And he probably has more in terms of fumbles. But he's thrown 16 picks. Let's see how many fumbles he's had. The man he leads the league and 13 fumbles. That is the most in the NFL. Baker Mayfield has 13 fumbles. That is the most in the NFL this year. Like, this is a prime opportunity. Like Vanilla said, Commanders money line. It's a prime opportunity for Washington to steal some possessions and find a way to put some points on the board when you get those opportunities. Maybe even a defensive touchdown. Like, give your offense some help. Where Dante Fowler at, bro? Former running back. Where Mikey Sanders still? Former receiver. Well, not former running back, but he played. You know what I'm saying? Got a little running back juice in him. Jason, been a minute since I called one of your streams. Best of luck. But good luck in the playoffs, Uso. What up, Jason? Appreciate you checking in, big dog. AJ, did you hear me about B-Rob, bro? AJ funny as hell. Run game and run D is cooked, but Jaden's legs as our run game. One thing that I actually am interested in talking about, because like I did mention the fact that you ain't gonna run the ball, and what I meant specifically though, because I remember I was talking about that, and I should have clarified. But what I meant specifically is about the running backs themselves. But the good thing about the playoffs and the reason why, like, trying to get that momentum against the Dallas Cowboys going into the postseason was a big deal, was to try to get the running backs and the offensive line back on track. But if you got Jaden Daniels, we can worry about the offensive line and running back situation later. But you got Jaden Daniels. And you got Austin Eckler. I don't think Austin Eckler has ever lost his confidence, comparatively speaking, to a Brian Robinson, in terms of like what he's seeing as a running back, like his decisiveness, right? His burst. I don't think Eckler has ever lost that, and I think that is a benefit too, especially for a person in Eckler. While he didn't do too much against the Dallas Cowboys, that was him kind of warming up, gearing up for the playoffs. I mean, the shit, think about it. The way they used them against Tampa Bay in that first game, I think he had over 100 all-purpose yards. I'm about to double check. I lied. I thought he had more rushing yards than what he did. He only had 2 carries. But he had 4 receptions for 52 yards. Yeah, 2 carries for 10 yards. Yeah. I mean, when you trailing all game, essentially, that is what it do it. But again, you get Eckler back in your offense. After missing him for a few weeks. This time against Tampa Bay, I don't think Cliff Kingsbury is going to waste any time involving Austin Eckler. And I think that's one thing that you can look at from a run game standpoint and say there is a shot that we can find some explosives here and there, right, with your backs, and you'll have a good shot. But again, like I said, the run game in terms of the offensive line and the running backs, we can worry about that in the offseason. Right now, Jaden need to go ahead and get this backpack that's full of every offensive issue, right? Put it on his back and say, you know what, bro? We're going to the promised land. Don't even worry about it. Let's get this dub. He's going to have to put the team on his back for a little bit. What is it about our run defense that they don't buckle down until second half? I'm going to circle back in like 2 minutes. I'm going to keep going through the chat, and I'm going to show some of the plays. It's a perfect time to kind of sneak in some clips that I've been looking at through the film session. We're going to circle back to that in a couple minutes. I'll return right back to that one. Rashad was getting started simply because he had best status. Should have been starting all season. Possibly. Key for the game is stop the Bucks on third down. I think they verse and converting. Let's take a look because that might be a good point. They are number one. God damn. 50% of the time. 51%. They converting. Antoine Winfield Jr., I think he's actually on their injury report. I don't know if he's playing or not. Dawson, you must be talking about Bijan. Hey, bruh. Hey, that's funny. I know I'm catching up a little bit. I'm way behind. Y'all are hilarious, bruh. Jim Sleazy, good morning. Hey, it ain't never too morning. It's a morning show, bruh. It ain't never too early, bruh. And if you checking in for the first time, we really do these Jones at 6 a.m. You hear me? So appreciate you checking in, though, Jim. Welcome to the morning show. Appreciate all the morning trappers checking in once again. That man working, looking at. We might have to get pressure up the middle. Okay. So I see all the comments. Yeah, people hate B-Rob. Oh, he was a full participant. Okay, real. People hate B-Rob, bro. They don't like him. All right. Let's go and get to where was the comment? All right. Let's talk about some of the plays that I'm seeing defensively. Some good and some bad. It's not all problems. It's not all problems. Let's go ahead and exit. Commanders 18. All right. The only thing I don't like about there we go. StreamYard sometimes, man. This StreamYard, the quality can just drop at the blink of an eye. All right, here we go. And let's go ahead. This is the first play of the game. And now you're talking about a three defensive line front. Technically, you got an outside linebacker, right? And I meant defensive tackle front, sorry. You got Deron Payne on the outside of the outside shoulder of the tight end. Johnny Newton is head up on the guard as a 2-tech. And you got your backside, I guess he's a 2-eye or a 3, and John Allen. 7-man box essentially against 21 personnel, your two running backs, and your 1 tight end. Trey Lance is a little different because, again, you're talking about a third-string quarterback. This isn't the starting defense. Let me rephrase that. This isn't like the starting offense that you'd see like in week 6 or even the starting offense that you see against Atlanta. With Atlanta. But let's run this. First play of the game, you get a yard or 2, right? But with John Allen, well, I don't want to talk about that one. That's actually the wrong play. Where my notes at? Yeah, I was looking at the negative play. I was like, hold on, bro. So this is actually a play made by Luvu, Payne, and Newton. Payne obviously is taking on a double team between your pulling guard and the tight end. He's a good job just sustaining, right? But what that does at the point of attack, right, is allow Newton to scrape up, Luvu to scrape over and get the ball carrier at the backfield. So sometimes you do get those plays where your defensive tackles and your defensive linemen are able to take on double teams. The problem or the acknowledgement of where things are successful is understanding that Payne at the edge is not going to take on a center and a guard double or a tackle and a guard double, right? And it makes it a little bit more easier to sustain a double team in this aspect, right? And it allows your perimeter or your weak side or strong side linebacker, whichever side they're on, to get free access so long as they play it right on the second level. So now you get Louvu in the gap. You get Johnny Newton, who's working backside as well, right? He's seeing a double team, but he does a good job fighting off 78. He just has the backside pursuit ability, right? So he works through it this time. Doesn't allow himself to get driven back off the ball. You get a 1 yard gain. But the one where I was getting confused and I was mentioning John Allen was actually the very next play. It was the very next play of the game. My bad. Hold on. Let me show some love to the. Hey, Tony, appreciate you, big dog. Good morning. Good morning, man. Bose is going to blitz like crazy. They better do better than the first time. Jaden has to either get rid of the ball or run. Also, Mike Evans pushes off like AJ. We need fair officiating. Guess what? Marshawn is playing. They're going to be going at it. And I think one of the beauties of the playoffs is you get the best officiating crews throughout the season. And I'm actually going to get this person on in the offseason. I had her on a couple years ago now. And she got me hip to like how officials prepare for a game. Like they know what they're going into. They do their scouting throughout the week. They know exactly who to look for. They know exactly how teams are playing. They know exactly how receivers or defenders, they know exactly how they play. And again, you get your best officiating crews. I think for Washington, you just got to play physical. You got to make sure you play within the rules in terms of your technical aspects. But I do think I like what you're saying with Jaden. Get rid of the ball. Be decisive in your decisions and run. Put the team on your back offensively. Appreciate you, Tony. Thank you. Let's go ahead and get to the next play where I mentioned John Allen. So this one is a 7-yard gain. But now at this point, right, you have a 3 defensive line front again. So we talk about how people like what Joe Witt Jr. was doing with the 3 defensive line front. John Allen, Daron Payne, Johnny Newton. There is nothing wrong with that at all. Right? I think that it is a good addition to the defense. I think the problem still exists in the interior in certain instances when you're talking about being able to identify a run, being quicker than your opponent at the point of attack, or not identifying a block technique quick enough. So you get John Allen as your front side 3 technique defender, right? Number 93. In between the tackle and the guard. The right tackle and the right guard. The right guard does a really good job. I don't even know his name. But his footwork, the right guard, is impeccable. Right? His leverage is impeccable. Like, it's a really good rep from 67. Right? He plays with good pad level. His footwork, like his first step isn't forward, it's back or sideways, lateral, right? His goal is to turn John Allen outside of that gap. When his back is to the gap, that is a win. There is no winning for John Allen. The only thing that he can do is try to get some power and drive that guard back and squeeze the gap. Because at this point, he's already lost. So again, in his underfront, he gets completely turned outside of his gap, right? And now you're talking about a person in Rico Dowdle who has easy access to the second level. You can see it right here. It's plain as day. And then you got to have Louvu make that tackle, right? He ends up getting like 3 or 4 more yards after that. So it still could have been like a 3-yard, 4-yard gain. but one of your defensive linemen getting tackled, getting boxed out. Deron Payne does a good job on the edge, setting the edge. And that's kind of one of the reasons why you put a Deron Payne out there, right? Is because you want somebody who's going to be more disciplined on the edge, somebody who can actually withstand like kick out blocks, see the ball carry a little bit more easier. Look how he set the edge. It's a violent edge set. Really good job from Deron Payne. But he needs help. He needs somebody to be in that gap for him. And nobody's there. Okay. Another thing, this is actually about a couple possessions later. This is a 3rd and 1. Still the first quarter. So here's a 3rd and 1. Now you get 11 personnel. This time you get the fullback in, so there is no running back. I don't know who the hell this fullback's name is. That man ran, boy. He won playing. But here's the thing, and I'm gonna show 2 plays back to back. So this isn't going to be in succession. This is going to be 2 of the same examples. I tell y'all all the time throughout the season, I actually like Sheldon Day. I think he's 6 feet, and I don't think he has the best arm length, right? Sometimes he plays with good leverage because he has natural leverage. That's a positive. That's not a knock. This play, one of the things, again, when you're talking about defensive linemen playing like with the right technique, like hat placement, making sure your helmet is on the right side of the offensive lineman's shoulder, whichever side. When I say right, not like the literal right side, but I'm saying like the actual right side of where the play is versus where you're supposed to be to defeat the block or locate the ball carrier. Sheldon Day is now at your 2 technique, right? He's head up over or slightly outside. So I guess this is your 3. But Sheldon Day is on the right side of the defense, left side of the defense, right side of the offense, over top of 67, right? Let's go ahead and run it. So for Sheldon, does a good job at the snap, right? Getting in the run fit, but now you got to locate the ball carrier too. He's just getting swarmed. But at this point, right, because it seems like the way this is, I'm a little confused in terms of like if this is a true 3 technique or like a 2-eye, right? Because if you're 2-gapping, you got to be able to actually stack this offensive lineman, locate the ball carrier, make a play. But Sheldon is not, his head is in the right spot, right? Or maybe he's anticipating the run to go that way and he's expecting defenders to field. Now, obviously, as you see, we see what happens on the second level. Ben St. Juste gets ran over. And you would hope at this point, though, as you play a little bit more downhill in terms of your run support from the secondary. But again, my main point at the first level, you got to locate the ball carrier. Sheldon never found him. You get 11 yards on 3rd and 1. I'm going to go down the line. This is actually the 4th. This is the 3rd quarter. And then we'll come back. All right, so this is the 3rd quarter. These are some of the examples. So again, what we're talking about getting turned out of your gaps. We're going to get to double teams in a second. Locating the ball carrier. You got to be able to do that. If you can't find the ball carrier, how are you going to make a play? That's a really critical part of the defensive line. And obviously getting off blocks. So where am I at? All right, here we go. So this is play 60. This is the 3rd quarter, 2nd and 1. Let's go ahead and run it. So I qualify this from Sheldon. Oh, by the way, sorry. Sheldon is your 3 technique now. He's in between the right tackle and the right guard on the left side of the defense. I qualify this as not being able to locate the ball carrier well. I'm just looking at his eyes, looking at his helmet. I don't think he can find him. Deuce Vaughn is also super small, but there's no excuse. And again, 73. Oh my God. My main focus was on Sheldon Day, but I saw this off rip. 73, excellent burst off the ball, great pad level. Like look at this. Look at, just to kind of qualify, like look at what 73 is doing, and then look at his offensive line, just to show you how quick and explosive he was at the snap. That is an excellent play from 73, but unfortunately, if you're a film guy, you understand that. But unfortunately for Washington, we know who 93 is. So he's getting crushed and getting driven off the ball. Let me catch up with the chat a little bit. The refs know they need to get a flag out when they see 25 in Burgundy. Why so much hate towards the defensive tackles this week? Mainly Payne and Allen. Honestly, bro, they ain't playing that good. They just ain't playing that good, bro. Relative to their contract, of course. But I don't think. I mean, they're not. Fuck it. They just not playing good, bro. Like, I'm over here trying to quantify it. They just not playing good enough, bro. Honestly, like, you can look at if you look at it in detail, you can sit here and point out some of the things that they do well, right? I'm not gonna knock that, right? They do some things well, but at the end of the day, are they making an impact? Are they making an impact on this defense? A true impact? The answer is no. They're just not doing it. Also, the trap block on Payne allowed the tight end to get quickly to the second level. I actually think that was designed, and I didn't get that for myself, but I'd have to go back to it. But essentially, the design of the play is the tight end getting to the second level as a design, like a selling the vertical, like an actual passing route, which gets the defensive tackle downhill. I think that was actually the play design. Let's go ahead and they're not overpaid to have big cap hits. I agree. I also agree with this in terms of, like, he doesn't finish. He can't finish in the backfield, which is that's been his thing for like at least 3 years. Even the year where he had 11 sacks. I believe in Allen and Payne this week. Payne and Allen underachieving considering their pay, but most of our big runs come off the edge, not through the A gaps. Out too, I wouldn't say all that. They get gashed in the interior. They get gashed on the edge. I agree with this as well, Ralph. But I did want to acknowledge the defensive tackle comment. But the run game requires more than just defensive tackles. I agree. Payne balled his contract year and then disappeared. Sheldon needs to hold his ground and stuff in the middle. Mark Bullock, what up, player? Where you at? Wait, let me check my DMs. Oh, you did DM me. Wait. Wow, you DM me. Damn. All right, we still got time. Come on. I got to get out of here in an hour. So let me go ahead and send you the invite. My bad. Let me go through. Let me go through. Oh, this is gonna be a perfect play for Mark. All right, here we go. What's up, Mark?
Hey,
What's
man.
up, man? How you doing?
I've been waiting there like 20 minutes, man.
I was locked in on the film session. I wasn't even on Twitter, so I was like, when I saw you in the chat, I was like, oh, he back.
I was watching, man. It's good stuff.
So this is actually a perfect play for you. Granted, we all have our own films. I actually, since you're here and I know you've done your preparation for Tampa. I want you to kind of talk about that, but this is one play in particular that I look at from just the defensive line. Again, for those that's in the chat, like I said, when I did this film session in particular on defense, I didn't look at the secondary. Like my whole idea with Dallas was just to look at the defensive line in that front seven. So that was it. But I do agree with Ralph, who mentioned run game requires one of his defensive tackles. Anyway, back to the defensive line and these guys named John Allen, Deron Payne, Newton, etc. I'm gonna pull up this one play and I'm gonna run it and we can just talk about it together. And just I want to I want to know what you're seeing and see if we see the same thing. So let me pull this one up. Which one is this? Play 23. Okay. All right. So this is 1st and 10, second quarter, 23rd play of the game. We'll go ahead and run it, and then we can talk about it a little bit. My focus is on John Allen in specific on this one, but let's go ahead and talk about it. So I'm going to run it back a couple more times. So this play is really quick. I didn't go through like the other angle as well. They snapped it pretty quickly, but my focus here was just actually how he was performing in the act of rushing and cornering the left guard to get to the quarterback. What was your opinion on John Allen through this game? But also, I thought John Allen's biggest strength that he'll provide as a defensive tackle coming back to Washington was in the passing game. And what's your opinion on just what you're seeing here? Just the attempt itself.
I think generally speaking, he's been a little bit rusty, which you kind of would expect, given you've been off for quite some time with that injury. But I think you start to see little flashes of he's starting to get that heavy-handedness back and being able to get off the snap quickly, and you can kind of see he gets hip level pretty quick there. He does get washed aside, and obviously it's a quick throw, so you can't read too much into it. But I think you started to see it a little bit in this game. I think there was a stunt with Dante Fowler, I think, in this game, or it might have been last week, I can't remember, where you could see he was a little bit slow off the snap, got into it, and then once Fowler stunted, suddenly he had that burst back. And so you started to see him coming back into it. But I do still think play to play, he's been a little bit rusty.
I agree. And that was my main thing, but I like the perspective that you added. And it's something that I think is important because I actually even let it fall to the wayside. Like the heavy-handedness part, like he's finding his groove. Like he still has mentally, he still has exactly what he needs to win. And I think that's something that's just as important as a person who looks a little rusty. That was my main thing. I was like, he looked a little rusty here coming back. He's been back for 2 games, but I guess it's going to take him a little bit longer. But that was kind of my thing, is just seeing his pass rush moves are a little bit like he didn't even have what's the hump move. Like it wasn't, it was kind of absent. But he's trying other things and like he still has some stuff there. But I like the fact that mentally he has the hand usage. He has the idea of what he wants to do. He has a plan. Just he got to kind of lock in everything from the upper body to the lower body and the burst itself,
doesn't he? It's not the timing on everything is just not quite right. You can tell he's just a little bit off in all of his little movements, and it just takes some time, I guess, when you're coming back from that kind of injury. to get that back into the swing of things, I suppose.
Yeah. Let's see. I'm gonna run. Which one should I go to? I'm gonna do two good ones, and then we're gonna end it on the on the back one. All right, which one? This is the one actually right after the John Allen play. This is play 24. This is 2nd and 2, and we can run this one. So I'll run it back a couple more times, but I guess whenever you see it, just let me know what you're thinking with this one.
What are we focusing on, Allen? Still?
Oh no, I'm sorry. This is actually just the front in itself, run game. Just so no one in particular, but just overall how the function of it. You limit it to like I think 2 or 3 yards with this one. And I guess I'll kind of start to get the conversation going, but I think it starts with two things, honestly. But Frankie Louvu, his point of attack, like the strength on contact, just being able to meet that puller, and stonewalling him, honestly. And who is this? I think that's Holmes. Something where I mentioned earlier in the film session, how when John got turned out of his gap, one of his options that he had left was to squeeze that gap, the play side gap, to just help limit the run games, or the yardage available to the running back. And I think he did a good job just pushing it, just as simple as pushing the blocker into Rico Dowdle. So just those two in particular is what I saw. Frankie Louvu and Holmes. I always think of Christian Holmes, but I think it's is it Christian?
It's Jalen Holmes.
Yep, there you go. See,
Christian Holmes was the corner that they had.
I've done it all season, Mark. I've done it all season. But Jalen Holmes, and then obviously you get the backside pursuit from Bobby Wagner, who cleans it up. But what are your thoughts on what you're seeing?
Yeah, so it's not quite ideal to get pinned inside by a tight end, but you're right. Once he does get pinned inside, he does play it right. He squeezes that gap. Thankfully, Louvu's really quick to the edge. We also get a nice crack replace on the edge from St. Just, so that the run can't just be completely bounced outside. So they kind of establish that edge and force that run back inside, and then they force it to that gap between Louvu and Holmes. And because Louvu's so strong there and Holmes is able to squeeze it, it's not really a gap. At one point, it looked like it would be a gap as the back is getting to it. There it looks like it's a gap, but because Louvu's so strong on the edge and Holmes is moving his guy backwards, and obviously Wagner's coming in as well, they shut it closed pretty quickly. It's you don't want your defensive end to get pinned by a tight end inside like that. That's not an ideal situation, but it does happen. And when it does happen, you want them to be able to, as you say, squeeze it back outside. If they can't work across the face and get back outside themselves, be able to squeeze it. So when you get into a bad situation like that, he made the best out of a bad situation by being able to squeeze it.
This one is we get Daron Payne back outside. I think this is a three defensive tackle front. This time you don't have John. This is Sheldon Day and John Allen, excuse me. But Sheldon Day and Johnny Newton out there alongside Daron Payne. In this one, I thought we can give some kudos to Daron Payne. And also part of the benefits of having him on the perimeter. Let's go ahead and run it and then obviously discuss it.
Yeah, big guy shouldn't be able to turn back out that quickly.
And they forced the holding too, so that was pretty good. But for a big defensive tackle to be able to get down the line, stop, and then restart back that way, and force Trey Lance to keep that ball outside where they've got some contain out there, that's a pretty damn good job by Daron Payne. And I've been very critical of Payne this year. And I think he's merited some of that, but that's a pretty good play from him to be able to change direction that quickly. You don't see guys that are 300 plus pounds being able to do that and hold that gap and force that quarterback to
bounce it to where there's more help.
I'm with you, Mark, and before I get to this last play, and then we can talk about Tampa for a little bit. There is a lot of talk about the idea of maintaining that 3 defensive tackle alignment when you go up against Tampa Bay. Just from the fan base standpoint, like that's what they want to see because they knew that it worked against Atlanta. And I don't disagree that it did work, and it does work in some instances. Like we showed some good, and then we shown like where some things can go wrong. But at the same time, what's your opinion on that idea with those 3 defensive tackles?
Yeah, I quite like the 3-man front against run sort of in run situations. When it comes to, the thing about the Bucs is that Liam Cohen, the offensive coordinator, comes from that McVay tree, and they are more than willing to go into play action stuff. And Daron Payne, I don't think gives you enough as a pass rusher if he's playing defensive end, or if you're playing a 3-man front. I don't think you're getting enough pass rush when they go into play action stuff, and that could really hurt them. So I think you have to be cautious about living in that front. But I think if it's like 1st and 10, they're definitely going to run the ball, then sure, use it a lot, and you can move Luvu down. You can effectively make it a 3-4 front if you want to. That provides a lot of flexibility, and they can use that in obvious run situations. But and I think they might need to, because Bucky Irvin's a damn good running back, and they have some good run schemes. I think the thing they just want to be cautious about is the Bucs. They can get to a lot of different runs, and they can get to a lot of different play actions from those runs. So if you want to be able to be balanced defensively, you don't want to just be selling out on the run. You want to be able to offer some pass rush, because Baker Mayfield and that set of receivers are capable of carving you up if you just try to play the run and you're not worried about the pass. So I feel like you're losing a little bit of the pass rush if you're sticking Daron Payne as a defensive end, or you're using a 3-man front. It just lacks a little bit for me that in that regard.
All right, so this is the last play, and then we can go ahead and move forward. I actually have a question about Joe Witt that I think is something at least worth discussion while we're here on this morning show. So let's go ahead and run this last one, and then we can talk about it. Dude spawned that fucking bobblehead, bro. 3 feet tall. Really, yeah, like 3 consecutive carries for like 30, 20, 25 yards. Yeah. And this is one of them. You get your front side 1 tech, Sheldon Day or 2-eye. Sometimes this stuff confuses me. I ain't gonna lie to you, Mark. But you see the double team right here, and just that's when people say, like I saw somebody in the chat say, the bigger runs come from the edge, and I'm like, brother, man, I see these guys, and it's not just Sheldon Day; it's some of the bigger names too.
Like every one of their interior guys has struggled with double teams this year.
They take turns getting driven off the ball. But what are you seeing specifically from this play? And I mean, obviously, one of them is the more glaring things. But just it's a microcosm of some of the things that we've been seeing this season. So I just wanted to get your thoughts on what you're seeing.
Yeah, well, part of this is that they're stunting into it. And I think that has been a part of their run game issues, is that they try to stunt the front a lot. And run stunts can be very, very hit or miss. They go for the stunts to be able to try to create a negative play, to set up a 2nd and long where they can pin their ears back and go attack and try to create some turnover opportunities on 2nd and long and 3rd and long. So that's why they try to do it. But in the midst of that, they will have run stunts that don't quite hit, or like you see there, he kind of stunts into that double team and then just gets driven off the ball 5-10 yards, however many yards that is. And when the stunts don't hit, it presents opportunities like this where you can pick up a big gain off of it. And we've seen it all year with Washington. When a stunt hasn't hit, you get guys driven back off the ball, and you get big holes being opened up, and
your second level gets washed. Like Wagner, he can't even make a play on it.
Exactly. So, so for me, that has been one of the biggest things with the run defense, and I think it's something that they are happy to live with because, as I say, they want the upside of if we get a big negative play on first down and we get them into 2nd and 11 on a blown up run or 2nd and 13 on a blown up run or whatever, then we can make them one dimensional. They're not going to run the ball, and we know we can go attack and we can blitz, and that can create some turnover opportunities. And we hear all the time Joe Witt and Dan Quinn talk about we want to turn the ball over, we want to create interceptions, we want to create those turnover opportunities, and the best way in their mind to get those is to set up 2nd and long, 3rd and long, force the passes where they can blitz, be aggressive, let the corners play off and drive on any quick throw underneath and create those turnover opportunities. And you see it on quite a lot of the long drives. It's the first few runs have been they've stunted and not worked, and then suddenly midway through the drive they'll have a run stunt that works, and it will get to 2nd and 11, and suddenly they can, as I say, go into attack mode and try to set up those 2nd and long, 3rd and long situations where they're attacking and blitzing and try to create turnovers. Now, obviously, they haven't created enough turnovers, and they always talk about that, but those are the situations that they want to get into because those are the situations that generate the most turnovers. And the way you have to think about it is if you look at the Commanders' offense, whenever they've been backed up, like if they have a first down run that gets stuffed and suddenly it's 2nd and 13 and you're passing and then you're 3rd and 8 and you're passing and you're off the field unless Jaden's made some incredible crazy play. That's the situations they want to create defensively, and they haven't done well enough. And part of that is, as I say, they're just not quite hitting those run stunts correctly, and they can be very hit and miss. But I think it's philosophically what they're trying to do.
Joe Witt, there's sometimes where like they get off to a really strong start, and then there's sometimes where it's like after the first drive you're a little concerned about how the day is going to go. Ultimately, they do have moments throughout a game where they actually get it together, and they get it together for a sustained period of time. What's your opinion on Joe Witt this season? And just obviously, I want to say like as of late, not to say there's a problem or like he's doing something really good, just your raw opinion of how he's been as of late, but also the type of performance he's put together with the stat or the unit that he has.
Yeah, I think that part is a big part of it. Like, I think they're getting a lot out of the unit that they have, especially in the secondary. Like, they spent the whole year with Mikey Sainristil and Benjamin St-Juste outside, and we've kind of seen St-Juste has struggled, and Sainristil has made some really nice plays, but he's also got away with quite a bit. And Noah Igbenogany has done a pretty decent job inside, but I don't think he's a guy that you want being your long-term starter. And so with those guys on the outside, I think they've done a pretty good job keeping the defense being kind of, I think they're about league average in most categories.
Yeah, like 13th, 15th, around that number.
So to be at that level with the people that they have, I think is a credit to Witt and what they've been able to do defensively. I don't think they are doing what they want to be doing. If you compare this unit to what they were doing in Dallas, there's a lot of differences, and you see Dallas when it was, they were playing a bunch of man coverage, they were blitzing a ton regardless of the down, and they were creating a bunch of turnover opportunities, and they were obviously taking those turnover opportunities. That's what they want to be doing. That they want to be aggressive. They want to be able to play man coverage and send the extra guys as blitzers. But they haven't been able to do that because they haven't been able to trust the corners that they have in man coverage consistently. And so they've had to try to do different things. And I think they've done a nice job of trying to mix things up. They've gone into a lot of sim pressures where they bail out into Tampa 2 and still generate some pressure with scheme, and that's pretty good. But I think they still philosophically have a way they want to be playing, and they're not able to do that. So I think that is probably why they aren't as good as what you would necessarily expect a Dan Quinn, Joe Witt defense to be. And I think it's just they don't have the personnel to do it yet.
Against Tampa Bay, you said, I mean, Bucky Irvin is the big deal. The big deal at this point. 1,100 yards rushing, and just 3 starts. So that just kind of shows how effective he is. I mean, honestly, there's been games where he's over 70 yards, under 40% of the snaps that he's played in that game. I think for Washington, you touched on like the variety of runs that they can get into and how effective the play action is. What's some of the things that you've seen from a Tampa Bay offense standpoint that it's like, yeah, these are the areas of focus for Washington if I'm Washington's defensive coordinator?
Yeah, so I think first and foremost is that run game. Cohen comes from that McVay tree, so that they are based fundamentally on the outside zone stuff, but they don't rely on the outside zone. They're more than happy to move to inside zone. That in fact, that's where Bucky Irvin's done a lot of his damage, is inside zone. And they are more than happy to be like, well, if you're gonna stunt the front and you're gonna do like wide nines and stuff like that typically stop zone stuff, we will quite happily get into our gap scheme stuff, and we'll run counter, we'll run power, we'll run duo, we'll run GT counter. They'll run trap and wham and crunch and all of those things. So they have a lot of run stuff installed, and they will run whatever is typically strong against the kind of fronts you'll use. So that's the cat and mouse game I think Washington's going to have to get into. Is we talked about those 3-man fronts with Payne playing kind of defensive end, or if you want to play 3 defensive tackles and shift the front a little bit, those will be good against zone scheme. But the Bucs will probably see those schemes and those fronts and be happy to shift into a gap scheme counter or GT counter or whatever, and that will make it a lot tougher for Washington to defend those schemes out of those fronts. So that run scheme versatility is one of the big keys. Obviously, as I talked about, the play action stuff is huge, and then in the passing game, Mike Evans is Mike Evans, and his matchup with Lattimore is hopefully going to be fun to watch. Hopefully Lattimore is healthy and ready to go. I'm sure he will be pushing to play. I just hope he's fully healthy and able to play to his best abilities. Because if he's not, Mike Evans is going to have a day. And we saw that back in week 1. The couple of times he played St. Juice. Like, St. Juice didn't actually play him too badly in that game, but Mike Evans is Mike Evans, and they caught that 30-yard touchdown over the top of him, and he had a different touchdown against them as well. So those are the big threats. The one other thing I would note that stood out to me when studying the Bucs this week was their screen game. Pretty much all their offensive linemen are capable of getting out in front of those screens, and they can set up the screen game. Think of the McVay Shanahan tree with the amount of misdirection they have with an end around and jet sweeps and fake handoffs, and then suddenly you're setting up a throwback screen. So those screens can be real big gains for them, and so that's something Washington also needs to keep an eye on. I know they love to be aggressive and they want to create those 2nd and long, 3rd and long situations, but if you get too aggressive, too nosy, they will just throw screens over you, and that could be some potentially big plays for the Bucs.
Yeah, the big play part is a little scary. I think Washington over the course of the season has done an excellent job from a pass game standpoint, limiting their explosive plays. They've tightened down on, like, one of the bigger deals to start the season was how they handled that communication standpoint from bunches and trips and a team that exploited it. One of the most is Tampa Bay, and I think they've come a long way since then. But at the same time, you're talking about a team who is very creative in how they get to things, but also like the number 3 passing offense in the NFL. Baker has, I mean, as many turnovers as he's had what, like 40 touchdown passes, I think, or something like that.
Yeah.
So like
he's playing really well.
He is a dog, and I think for Washington, the explosive play standpoint is a vulnerability. And I think that's probably one of the bigger things for Washington to focus on defensively, just from a macro standpoint. I also don't know, like, I think you're going to need several players to like really step up and like have an impact on the game. But I also think from a trenches standpoint, somebody's going to have to be able to make some plays in the backfield. I'm not going to like call out a certain person in particular, but I do think like somebody's going to have to be able to step up and make those plays, because not only did you get back there in that first game, you also wasn't able to capitalize when you got back there.
Finish.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of the scary thing, is like those are when explosive plays are happening the most, because at this point you're in scramble drill mode, and you got to hope that everybody clamps onto those receivers. And even against the Cowboys, some of those bigger plays is when Trey Lance was able to get outside the pocket and scramble to his left or right. And he's finding people 20 yards down the field. That Mingo dude, man. Like everybody clowns Jerry Jones, rightfully so, for trading the 4th round pick for him. And he out here, like, I mean, he's not really cooking, but he getting free on scramble drills. And it's like this dude having himself a day. I think Tampa Bay is like when you have Baker Mayfield back there, Mike Evans, and the rookie from Washington, and Cade Otton and Bucky Irvin, like, and Rachaad White, excuse me, like he's still there. Yep. You got some things to worry about, man.
Yeah, they have a lot of weapons. Like, I mean, there's a reason they're like I think they're 3rd in passing, 4th in rushing, and something like 4th or 5th in points. Like they are very, very good offense. And they can beat you in a lot of different ways. And yeah, that point of being able to finish plays is absolutely right. So I went back and watched that week 1 game earlier this week, and it was incredibly frustrating to see. They could have had 7 sacks in that game easily if people could finish. I think they only got 1 sack in the end. And Baker just, Baker's slippery. Like, he's not an easy guy to bring down. But even so, like, the amount of opportunities, I think they had something like a 60 or 70% pressure rate in that game, which is like insanely high. And if you pressured every quarterback at that rate, you'd be probably the best defense in football. To have a 60 or 70% pressure rate and only come away with 1 sack is insane. So they were calling stuff that was working in terms of pressuring and getting there. They just weren't finishing the plays. You gotta be able to finish, and that is key. And finishing comes with in lots of different forms. It's not just the pass rush has to finish; those front guys have to finish. On the back end, the DBs have to finish too, because Baker will give you opportunities to intercept the pass. Like, he will make some incredible tight window throws that you're like, damn, he just fit that ball in there. That's a great throw. But at the same time, he will also be like, that one was a little bit risky. I remember St. Juste had one in that first game where Baker just threw it, assuming that out route would be there, and St. Juste jumped it and dropped the interception. And that happened pretty early in the game. So you make that interception, maybe you take it back the other way, or you set your team up with good field position, and suddenly the game goes in a different direction. So got to finish defensively. If you get those opportunities from Baker, you've got to take those interceptions. The front has to finish with those sacks if they get there. You can't let him get off script and let him go scrambling, because that's when he's at his best, and that's when you get guys like Mike Evans that can just make incredible catches regardless of who's covering them down the field.
We only win this game, Mark, if Jaden Daniels gets 300 passing yards and 200 yards rushing. But I think he really does have to. He's gonna have to put all of the offensive issues, whatever they are, pass protection, inability to run the ball with your backs and establish a ground game through your offensive line, having that chemistry. Your receivers not being everybody like outside of Terry being like threes on a roster, because I mean Noah's gone and honestly he was good for your offense, but he was a three as well essentially. But put all of those problems in a backpack, pick the backpack up, put them on your shoulders, and carry them to a dub, man. I think honestly, bro, I think this is going to be a Jaden Daniels game. Obviously, he's going to need some help, and there's going to be some players that does help him. But this is really a game where it's like we'll worry about the problems in the offseason, but right now we need you, bro, and you have shown over the course of this season, as the season went along, that we can trust you to make these plays for us.
100%. That's a point I was trying to make when we did our show with Doug and
Big Doug. Yep.
Yeah, Big Doug and George. That was a point I was trying to make on Tuesday when we did that, which was in the play, like in the regular season, you want to build an identity and find a consistent way of being able to win games, whether it's, run the ball well, establish the run, set up play action, or whether you're just a really good passing attack or you have a mobile quarterback that can add to the run game and stuff like that. Whatever it is, you want to find a consistent way of winning. When you get to the playoffs, all bets are off. It's win or go home. And so when you're talking in the regular season, you don't want Jaden Daniels having to scramble every play. When you get to the playoffs, it's, I don't care. Jaden, if you see a lane, take it, go turn a play into whatever you can, because they're going to need it. And I agree. I think the way that they win this game is winning a shootout. I don't trust the defense to be able to hold Tampa Bay under 30. So I think unless they suddenly start catching some turnovers, and maybe Lattimore plays into that, maybe Sammer still balls out and like he did when he showed up against the Eagles in that first Eagles game. Maybe something like that happens, but I still don't trust the defense to be able to hold them under 30. So it's going to be an offense game where Jaden's going to have to win a shootout. And fortunately, he has shown us this year he's capable of doing that. And he's capable of making plays in moments. And that's one of the things. The Bucs are also a very aggressive defense. They will blitz at any given moment, and they will try to attack and disrupt the quarterback. And the downside of that from Tampa Bay's perspective is that will leave them vulnerable to big plays being thrown over the top of them. And we've seen that from Jaden this year. He's thrown touchdowns against the Bengals, against the Eagles, where there have been blitzes coming and there's free rushes in his face, and he just goes, I'll just throw it over you, and throws to Terry 30 yards, 40 yards down the field for a touchdown. And we even saw it in that first game against the Bucs in week 1. They had a couple of coverage busts where they ran cover 0. B-Rob walked out to the flat without anyone covering him, and they had a 40-yard game that was wiped out from a block in the back from Zacchaeus. But that shows the kind of example that they will have opportunities, especially if Jaden's able to make a free rusher miss and go off script. And they will need that to be able to create some explosive plays. I do agree with you. It's, can Jaden put the offense on his back again? If he can, they've got a shot. If he can't, then I find it hard to think the Bucs will lose this one.
The offensive line has been trending downward. Now people have mentioned Biotis being out, but like the last 6-7 games, it hasn't been good. Or excuse me, it's been trending downward for like 6 or 7 games. He's missed 2. I do want to acknowledge that I think he's been playing through injury too. So I mean that can play a role. But what are your thoughts of the current state of the offensive line? Not throughout the seasons, they've had really good moments, but the current state of the offensive line, and how do they match up against this Tampa Bay front? What have you seen from those guys? And how do you think they match up against that front?
It's a tough front. They've got some real nice players on there. Vita Vea is obviously the center of it all as the nose tackle, and he is a very stout guy. He's very, very hard to move off the ball. I can't remember the guy's name. Is it Diaby?
Yeah, Diaby.
Yeah, that's the guy. He's got some talent as well. But the Bucs, it's not so much about like having a bunch of star pass rushers for the Bucks. It's about the scheme that they will blitz with Todd Bowles, and they do a really, really good job of identifying your protection schemes and finding blitzes to attack them. And it's not just they'll commit multiple bodies to the rush. They'll blitz 5, they'll blitz 6, they'll blitz 7 if they have to, but they will also stunt those guys. And there was one that stood out. One example I can talk about that they stood out, which was against the Chargers this year, where they rushed 5 and Levante David joined the rush as the 5th rusher, and the defensive end dropped out to replace him in coverage. And Levante David rushed initially in the A gap, and the running back jumped up to try to block him, and then David crashed into the guard, the right guard, and the defensive tackle looped around him, and that left the defensive tackle on the running back, and the running back had no chance, and the DT ran over him, and Herbert managed to just about throw it away and avoid getting sacked. But that's the kind of pressures that they can create. It's not just, oh, we're bringing 6-7 bodies at you. It's we're not just bringing those bodies, we're stunting the front, and you're going to have to pass things off. So it's they provide a lot of challenge in pass protection, and if you're not able to run the ball, which obviously Washington has struggled with this year, and especially of late, then you're getting into the kind of situations I was talking about that the defense wants to get into, which is your 2nd and long, 3rd and long. You're having to pass the ball constantly. So they're going to have to find ways of getting around the lack of run game, whether that's RPOs and hitting the quick screens to the flat, or the quick slants and the pop passes and stuff like that, to keep them ahead of the chains. Because as soon as they're behind the chains, the Bucks go into attack mode, and the pass protection unit will struggle against that Bucks rush, because the scheme is so good. It's not necessarily that they have a bunch of absolute studs up front. They've got some really good players, but it's more just they set up the scheme so that your running back's having to block a defensive end that he's not capable of blocking, and that's where they are very, very productive.
Yeah, man, that stuff is going to be really challenging, and I think if you are going to help Jaden, you got to find a way to get him some time, and whether it's like a true 3 seconds, or even being able to give him more than 3 seconds. Typically, if you get him anything under 3, like that's hell for a quarterback. But if you get him that number, Jaden has shown that he's able to process things pretty quickly, and I think for Washington, even from a run game standpoint, you mentioned the RPOs. I think having Austin Eckler back, for those in the channel, I have my feelings towards Brian Robinson. I am a fan of Brian Robinson. I also am very aware that, Brian doesn't look exactly the same as he was prior to his injuries. But I am also aware of how things have gotten difficult and muddied that are beyond his control. And I think that's the dichotomy that people aren't necessarily like trying to accept here when you look at the running back and the offensive line, and why the rushing game with the backs themselves are not successful. I also think that Austin Eckler coming back can really offload some pressure for Brian Robinson, because I don't think that he is in the same mental state as a B-Rob. I think that Brian Robinson has lost a little bit of confidence. I think that has a lot to do with maybe his injuries that we don't know, and maybe he don't know. But also just the fact that some things that he sees, he's not necessarily hitting the hole with like the true burst that you would like to see, or the decisiveness that you would want to see from your running back. And that's just from a player standpoint, not the offensive line standpoint. What do you think about Austin Eckler and how he can contribute? Like the first game, he had like 4 catches, 40, 50 something yards, but he also only had 2 carries. I think the carries part and his overall usage is probably going to be a little bit more in this playoff game than what it was in that first game.
Yeah, well, I mean, when it gets to playoffs, it's whoever's the hot hand gets the ball, right? So if that's Eckler, it's Eckler. If it's Rodriguez, it's Rodriguez. If it's B Rob, it's B Rob. It'll be interesting actually to see if Chris Rodriguez is active because with Eckler back,
Yep.
I would think they would keep McNichols as a pass protector. So I wonder if Rodriguez will be active or not. Yeah, in terms of Eckler's role, I think it will be a big role because I think they initially wanted him to be one of their top 3 or 4 guys in terms of touches. Both as a running back and a receiver combined, because they had that 21 pony personnel stuff where they had both Robinson and Eckler on the field at the same time, and Eckler would sometimes line up as a running back or a fullback, and sometimes he'd be a slot receiver and stuff. A lot of the stuff that if you watch the Bucks film, you see Bucky Irving doing quite a lot, which is moving around and catching some passes, doing some screens and stuff like that. All of that was the stuff Eckler was doing earlier in the year. So they've been missing that element from the offense. And I think that could certainly find its way back into the offense. So that could be a big part of it, especially as you talked about. Noah Brown's not there. He did some good things for them, but that means there's one less main target to be throwing the ball to. So really, you're left with, in terms of reliable targets, is obviously Terry, and then I guess Zach Ertz, and then you're looking at Eckler could be your third guy, and guys like Crowder or McCaffrey or Zacchaeus can chip in here and there, but I think Eckler would be a guy you'd probably want to get the ball to a little bit more than those guys.
I'm with you, man. I know you do your predictions, and I know what your prediction was. I don't know if like we supposed to save this for when Doug brings him out. Okay, so I know what your prediction was. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm still conflicted. I think Washington does end up winning this game. And I honestly came from a standpoint of I thought they was losing at first, but I had to do some more thinking about this, and I have no doubt that one of the tougher jobs that they'll have is going to be in the wild card round with that offense of Tampa Bay. I think that's going to be a very tough offense to defend, and I think that I can talk about Marshawn Lattimore as I did as many times as I want, and how he'll be able to change some things from a mental standpoint and just from a game planning standpoint. But that's just one part of the puzzle. I feel like this offense in Washington just gives you a different dynamic that if you can force some turnovers, it's hard to really count them out. I think that Jaden so far, and I've typically said he doesn't fail a test twice. I do think the Dallas Cowboys game was so frustrating, the second one, because it's like, damn, like I said what I said, and he ain't looking too good. I'm a little frustrated. But like overall, his resume speaks for himself throughout the season. And even during games where he's seen something before, he's been able to come back and get shit right the second time. So like it's not just an opponent standpoint, but it's an overall throughout a game, the game course and things like that. I think the same thing applies to Tampa Bay. And I think that he's been up against teams with even more talent defensively, and just as a good amount of talent offensively, and he's overcome deficits. He's also been able to compete against those top tier defenses. Tampa Bay's hurt; their secondary's hurt, and I think that it's going to be a problem up front in the trenches on both sides of the football. But I think this is just one of those guys where it's like there's not that many things out there that phases him. And while I may, after I'm saying this soliloquy, may end up having egg on my face on Sunday night, also think this is one of those games where he's going to come out prepared and locked in, especially in a moment where all eyes, granted, all playoff games is played by itself, but it's just one of those zones where it's like it's all eyes on him, and I think he's going to put on the show.
I 100% agree that I think Jaden will ball out. this was the point I was making on our show on Tuesday. Was while he's there, you've got a chance against anyone, regardless of who they are. Like Jaden gives you a chance against any team, and that it's amazing to be able to say that, given the Washington teams we've seen the past 3
Man,
years. But that being able to have a guy that can keep you in games, and we've seen this year the number of times where he scored late touchdowns and given them wins. Like he gives them a chance, whoever they play against, and no game is ever done. As they always talk about, the players talk about, while we have 5, we've got a chance. Like that, it's just true, because the guy is that good. He's so poised. He's so calm. He doesn't let the moment phase him. He just thinks, okay, I got to go out and if I've got to scramble for 40 yards and score a touchdown myself, I'll do it. And he's one of the few guys in the world that can say, okay, I just need to go scramble 40 yards and score a touchdown myself, and he can actually go and back that up. So yeah, I 100% think he can give them a chance. I just think the team is so overperforming where they are in terms of a talent base.
Yeah.
Like this was a team that was projected by most people to get about 6 wins this year, and they doubled it and got 12. I think that is a testament to the coaching staff and how well they've done trying to maximize the guys that they have. It's also a testament to how good Jaden's been, obviously. But I think when it gets to the playoffs, it's a little bit different, and you come up against the better oppositions that are more consistently able to put you away if you have a bad start, or take advantage of opportunities. If you drop an interception, they'll go and score a touchdown afterwards or something like that. Or a muffed punt, like we've seen a few times, they'll go and score and turn that into a game-breaking play. So for me, I just think Washington's overall talent base is just a bit lacking, and I find it hard to believe that they can stop that Bucs offense from controlling the game. But with Jaden, they absolutely have a chance. But I still I guess I'm English, and we're naturally pessimistic by nature. So I guess that's part of it. But I just kind of feel like the edge goes to the Bucs. But if Jaden comes up with a last-minute game winner, I would not be surprised at all. That would be totally in character for him, and it would be very much a promising future for Washington, regardless.
Bro, you're not lying, man. This playoffs, you got what? 1, 2. You got 2 wild card teams. I'm sorry, every wild card team is 11 plus wins.
Yep.
Green Bay, Minnesota, Washington, Tampa, and the Rams. Well, the Rams really, actually not. Tampa surged too. They were like 4-6 at one point. Tampa and the Rams surged. Like, you're spot on about the margin of error in the playoffs, in the postseason, being super small compared to what you were capable of doing in the regular season. And I think that is going to be something that's going to be eye-opening for a lot of players on this team, because there's even some veterans who helped change the culture, but it's their first time in the offs. I like what Frankie Louvu has done. He ain't been nowhere. Jeremy Chin, I think the same deal. He ain't been in the playoffs either. I mean, Deron Payne, John Allen, they've been there for one season, obviously the 2020 season. They've been around for the postseason, but like, that was a one and done experience, and you didn't have a fan base to really give you that opportunity to experience it. Now you're on the road. While I do think there's going to be a lot of Commanders fans out there, that's just one aspect of the aura, but like the margin of error and what you can and can't do, and bringing your A game every single week, because the better team has to win or should win, but you don't get no redos. And I think that's kind of the more difficult part when you think about a game like this is you acknowledge that Tampa does have an edge. But at the same time, like, you can win if you execute on all 3 phases and you take advantage of mistakes. And that's kind of the part that you can't really see in front of you. You got to hope that when the game comes, that is something that they take advantage of. So I don't disagree with you I actually agree with you 100%. Just the margin of error being different, and just playoff football being overall different. Now I'm gonna give my score, but I do think one of the bigger things that is also important that you mentioned is being able to control the clock. Time of possession is probably going to be a big thing against two offenses who are really potent. But if you can really do your best at keeping the other offense off the field, it may not be as high scoring of a game as people can anticipate. But if Washington were to win, you're going to have to keep up. And that's why I think Washington gets the dub 30-28. I put it in the chat already.
I just saw that,
I'll say 30-28. I think it's going to come down to a last second touchdown or field goal to get that 30 number. But it's going to come down to the last drive of the game, I think, for Washington. Whether it's that or they're holding the lead, I don't know. But I for some reason, 30-28 kept popping up in my head. And I think it's definitely going to come down to the last drive of the game for sure.
Yeah, I could certainly see it going down to the last drive of the game. And as I say, I can see it going Washington's way. I just think it's a lot to put on Jaden Daniels. And Jaden Daniels is capable of shouldering that, but you never know until he's in the moment of, first playoff game.
It's breaking news, bro. You said 42-14, bro. I know what you said in the chat, man.
I did not say 42-14. I can't remember what score I did put. I scroll up in the chat. What did I put? I said 31-24 Bucks. There you go.
31-24.
31-24. So Bucks by a touchdown. I struggle to see the defense holding the Bucks under 30 because they're just so well rounded, Tampa Bay, that they can win just running the ball. They can win just passing the ball. Obviously, if they're able to do both, then you're in a lot of trouble. And so I struggle to see the defense stopping that. It's just a case of can the offense keep up? And I think if Jaden Daniels had more of a supporting cast around him, like in a year's time, when they built up, they've had another offseason to add some draft picks and some free agent stuff, I'd be back in Washington all day. But I just think your overall talent level on the roster is just not high enough. I think they're so outperforming what they should be. I think they'll get that kind of bump back down to earth a little bit this week. And I hope I'm wrong because, as I say, Jaden Daniels is an X factor that can make you win any game. And that's great to have. So I hope I'm wrong, but I do think the Bucks have the edge.
It's all good, man. Ain't nothing wrong with that. It's been a hell of a season nonetheless. So, and it's been a lot of fun just covering the team. So it is what it is. Like I said, I thought they was going before I had this epiphany. I thought Tampa was getting the dub. But before we get out of here though, what's a game that's actually outside of this one is like super interesting to you
in the playoffs?
Yeah, postseason.
Man, I've been so focused. What are even the other games? There was
you got Philly, Green Bay, Minnesota, Los Angeles. You have
Rams, Vikings is going to be a good one because Rams are trending in the right direction at the right time. They're getting guys back healthy. Obviously, the Sean McVay factor is there. And the Vikings, they just had that big loss last weekend against the Lions, but they've been so good this year. And Kevin O'Connell, for me, I think if you're starting a franchise right now, if you wanted to pick a head coach, I think you would probably pick Kevin O'Connell. So, yeah, he'd be very high up there in terms of, he is very high up there in terms of the best head coaches in the league for me. So yeah, it's hard to look past that one because that is a very good matchup. And especially when you look at, obviously both offenses will be fairly similar schematically. So the defenses will know what they're coming up against. And
they played each other before this year too, I think. The Rams actually beat them.
I wouldn't be surprised.
30-20. Yeah, I remember that one. I had the Rams on that one. Yeah, 30-20 they won.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, and then on the AFC side, I do like that one. And I said earlier though, I have a problem with Sam Darnold. Like, I don't know exactly what it is, but that offense randomly gets off to slow starts. Yeah. And that's kind of part of the conversation we just had with Washington. Like, bro, if you get off to a slow start in the playoffs and the Rams with Matt Stafford, if he's on fire, if he's already coming in locked in, you in trouble, bro. And that 14-win season going on.
If you're the Vikings, are you paying Sam Darnold this offseason, or are you moving on
I
to
thought
JJ?
about that. I thought about that, bro. Like, it's I look at it like no harm, no foul. I chip JJ off. Like, I thought about
Really?
that. I would.
You weren't a big JJ guy, though, were you?
I actually didn't have an issue with him because I really didn't look at him
Right.
per se. So I actually think I watched. Who did I watch? I think, did you do a breakdown on JJ?
I did. I personally love JJ. I thought
We talked about it. That's what it was. I think we
Yeah.
talked about it before. Okay.
I love JJ McCarthy, and I thought he was a really, really good, especially for that type of offense. I thought he was a perfect fit. So I would not be in a hurry to ship off JJ McCarthy. And when you look at quarterback contracts and stuff, I'd be leaning towards kind of maybe tagging and trading Darnold. See if you can get something back for him. Someone's going to want him after this season.
Yeah.
And then move on to JJ McCarthy if he's healthy.
Would have had Daniel Jones as your backup?
Yeah, that, or if there's a question about McCarthy's health and whether he'll be ready for the start of the season, you could always just tag Darnold and have him play on the franchise tag for a year, and
You could.
see how he plays in year 2 and transition to JJ if you need to, or kick the can down the road for another year and then make the decision next year.
Yeah, I don't disagree with those options. I think my main thing and why I think about that sometimes is like when you think about QB controversies. I mean, shoot, we speaking from experience here. Like like once you keep two in the building and Sam don't live up to expectations, and you put JJ in, and now JJ has to live up to the expectations of what fans had with Sam. It's like, all right, well, JJ gonna cook, and then he don't come out as strong. It's like, would you rather not deal with that possibility and move on from him now, knowing that you have somebody that's good enough, or would you keep him and continue letting him develop and sit and take those mental reps, and when his time comes, he can come back and take over the job? I think those are two valuable options. I think I side on the, you know what, deal. Let's go ahead and get some value for JJ. He young. He got 4 more years left. And keep it pushing. But Sam, his value is definitely just as high, especially after the year that he's had. Right. Tony mentioned Denver versus Buffalo. And I think
that would be a good one because Denver's got one hell of a defense.
Yes, that's going to be a good one.
That will be a fun one to watch.
Another one that I think about. What's up, big dog? What's up, Art? What have been this? Oh, here it is. He'll take the vet Stafford and the Rams. That's because he got that money line play. He said he got money line Commanders and the Rams on a parlay. I'm actually thinking about tailing it. I want to see how my Thursday, Friday, and Saturday go with these college football games too. If I got enough money to put a little sprinkle on the underdogs, I'm right there with you, brother. All right. One more that I think about is the Chargers and on the road against the who is it? Chargers on the road against Houston. My bad. I don't think this is like a particular game where I'm super like locked in on, but I think it's interesting because of the standpoint of like the last time the Chargers were in the playoffs. It was like a 24-3 lead, or what was they had a huge lead over the Jacksonville Jaguars. And they just blew it. The Jaguars came back like it was nothing. It was probably one of Brandon Staley's. It's clearly his worst game in his career. It was up 27-0. That's what the score was. I think Trevor Lawrence threw like 4 picks that game. Yeah, he threw 4 picks.
I remember that one.
Yeah, finished it with 4 touchdown passes to get them back in the game. But I think this is probably one of those ones where for the Chargers, you get different leadership. You get a Harbaugh in there, a head coach. Your defense, it's been leaking a little bit over the last month and some change, but you finished strong in the season with 3 straight wins, and 2 gotta have them games in Denver and New England. You just blow the doors off New England. And I think this is one of those seasons for Houston where it's like, y'all are still good, but like this sophomore slump with CJ and what's going on in Houston with that offensive line. I got Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa coming into town. God bless.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I think the Chargers. It's always tough to look past a team when they've got a good young quarterback and a pretty decent defense. But I think that the problems that Houston have had offensively, and what as you mentioned, the pass rushers they have against that offensive line has been really poor. And so, I think it's hard to look past the Chargers. Plus their play style, if they get into the typical Harbaugh play style of running the ball, setting up, controlling time possession, getting a lead and maintaining it, and then forcing the Texans into passing situations, then that offensive line gets even more exposed and it can kind of snowball from there. So, I would find it hard to look past the Chargers there.
Mark, appreciate you joining me, man. Hopefully we can have you on some more morning shows.
Sure.
We'll have some film sessions for sure. We can talk through and just chop it up about the mob, man. I don't know what you got going on this weekend, but enjoy the games. Take your mind off the Commanders for a little bit before you actually got to do some work, man. Enjoy the games, bro. Stay safe.
Yeah, you too, bud.
All right, boss.
Yeah,
hey, appreciate everybody in chat. The morning trappers, like you said, we're always in here like 6 a.m. Keep that in mind for everybody that's tapping in live. So if you want to join us, typically we are on Wednesday mornings at 6 a.m. and Friday mornings as well at 6 a.m. There will be no show this Friday. This is why we're here on a Thursday. It's a holiday, but let's chop it up with the game. Appreciate everybody who tapped in live. Appreciate the monetary contributions and support for the channel as well. Shout out to you. Who was that? Tony. Yes. And thank you for showing your support that way. And we will be back from a programming standpoint. The Trap or Die podcast will be back this evening, 7 p.m. to preview Commanders Bucks with AJ and Dre. And then we will be back after that post game Trap or Dive late night Sunday night, right after the game. We'll talk about everything that happened, break it all down with the same mob, AJ and Dre and myself. Enjoy the weekend, man. Y'all stay safe. Enjoy the games tonight with who is that? Notre Dame and Penn State. I don't know who I got just yet. I'm still working the weeds. I pray to God I'm on the right side because I've been getting my ass whooped for like the last 2 weeks. So pray for your boy. Vanilla, good luck. I know you in the same boat as me with the gambling. So Yeti, I see you 28-13 Chargers. But yeah, y'all take it easy. Enjoy y'all day. And see y'all this evening. Peace.